not sure what happened there. So we're here with the final part, Visions from Beyond. We are a bit shorter on time, so I'm just going to skip over this sort of introductory section. Not particularly seeing anything noteworthy. Best known for a series of paintings of modern moral subjects, which he sold engravings on subscription, William Hogarth was a painter, printmaker, pictorial satirist, social critic, and editorial cartoonist. His engravings were so plagiarized that he later sued for the Copyright Act of 1735 as protection for writers and artists. During the 1730s, Hogarth also developed into an original painter of life-size portraits and created the first of several history paintings in the grand manner. Hogarth's unfinished oil sketch is an epic poem. Paradise Lost, Satan on the left confronts death, who bars his way from hell to earth. Between them is sin, who apparently can't mind her own business. Renowned for the mythical and enigmatic quality of his paintings of biblical and mythological subjects, in lens through his own unusual interpretations, Gustave Moreau has created a massively stunning, a thoroughly overwhelming Jupiter and Semele, which will stop you in your tracks and holds you utterly transfixed. Portrays the classical myth of the mortal woman Semele, mother of the god Dionysus and her lover Jupiter, the king of gods. Semele, on some bad advice from the goddess Juno, asked her lover to appear before her in all of his divine splendor. Jupiter obliged, but in doing, brought about her violent death by his divine thunder and lightning. It's easy to get lost in the exquisite beauty of the imagery, but it's wise to remember that there are some aspects of the world best left unrevealed. Jose Clemente Orozco was a painter who helped lead the revival of Mexican mural painting in the 1920s. Orozco's complex and often tragic works were powerful expressions of revolt, often depicting subjects related to political and historical events and allegories of the ongoing human struggle for freedom and justice. In the autumn of 1949, Orozco completed his last fresco and died in his sleep of heart failure soon after. Throughout the 1960s and 70s, he was hailed as a master of the human condition. As Orozco himself insisted, painting, it persuades the heart. Contemporary artist Chet Zar has an interest in the darker side of art and all things macabre and strange, which began early in life. These fascinations fostered a deep connection to horror movies, where he could relate to the feelings of fear, anxiety, and isolation being conveyed through the fearsome stories and gruesome medium. Challenging the assumption that darkness is a negative outlet, the artist does not shy away from these personal and societal fears, but rather explores the darker recess of human consciousness in his unsettling yet empathetic oil paintings of monsters that one might think are an invitation to connect with their shadow sides. This is partially true. The artist has also noticed that he just likes to paint monsters. They're more fun and satisfying to create. I also like to play the game of creating something that is traditionally considered ugly or dark, making a beautiful painting out of it. Vasily Alexandrovich Wilhelm Ortybinsky, a Polish symbolist painter of historical and fantastical subjects, was not the first artist to depict the fierce image of Medusa on the canvas, nor will he be the last. An avatar of feminist rage and empowerment, Medusa is nuanced and complex character, an instantly recognizable figure from ancient Greek art. It represents a dangerous threat meant to deter other dangerous threats, an image of evil to repel evil. Her face, whether fierce and grotesque or feminine and composed, appears in virtually all media in varying contexts. Her gaze fills us with a heady mixture of fear, desire, fascination, and horror, and is a timely motif that transcends era and genre. The cryptic paintings and drawings of Russian artist Dmitry Forkos live in liminal spaces, the shadowy pathways outside of time, the leap before infernal plummet, or the flight to the stars. Depending on mythology, poetry, and philosophy, Forkos believes there's no beauty without mystery, and no mystery without threat. In the maze of the labyrinth, it is said that you do not lose yourself, you find yourself. From the glooms of the labyrinth emerges the Minotaur, a strange hybrid creature, a twin form of bull and man. Forkos' version, we get the sense that we are observing this figure in the moments before divine revelation. Mystical threshold imbued with potent symbolism and sacred mystery. Italian Baroque master artist Michelangelo Maurice Dea Caravaggio painted the classical Greco-Roman mythological story of a Narcissus, a handsome, vain young boy who falls irrevocably in love with his own reflection. Then lost the will to live, no longer eating or drinking, and eventually died. Legend has it that beautiful yellow narcissus flower then bloomed where he spent his last moments. It was named in his honor. This tale is the origin of the word narcissism. Here Narcissus is depicted seated by a pool of water, leaning over, fascinated by his reflection. In this painting, there is nothing but Narcissus and his reflection, highlighting the obsessive focus of the youth, the dark infinity of such all-consuming self-love. Everything else has faded from his attention. In this charmingly lyric canvas by French painter Georges Équille, Madame Satan beckons to us with pink roses in full bloom in one hand, glittering jewels dangling in the other, smiling invitingly, draped in a rich, luxurious gown. We almost miss the shadowy wings unfolding behind her back, the smoke billowing in the background as if to suggest that all the time the gates of hell were but a few steps away. Who could resist such treats? Who could blame us for poo-pooing the eternal flames for a mere sniff of that perfect blossom? Some might even suggest in this risk-reward relationship that such pleasures are worth it. Noted by novelist Henry James as having an uncanny spectacle of talent, English artist John Singer Sargent was generally thought to be the most successful portrait painter of his era. In 1921, the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston commissioned Sargent to paint an installation on the ceiling of its Huntington Avenue stairway. This large masterpiece was one of the last paintings they completed before he died in 1925. Aeschylus's Aristeia is a trilogy of plays following the spate of murders and tragedy in the lives of Agamemnon, the king of Argos, and commander of the Greek forces that destroyed Troy, and his son Orestes. The third play, Eumenides, one of the euphemistic names for the Furies, opens with the Furies hunting Orestes down, haunting and tormenting him to drive him mad because of these murders. Over its 100 square feet, or the 9 square meters of canvas, it shows a young Orestes cowering under the attacking swarm of the Furies as he attempts to outrun their fearsome wrath. Contemporary artist Caitlin McCarthy illustrates spectral beauties, sibyls, and seers, witches and widows that gaze impassively at the viewer. Delicate and bloodless visages hinting at a bygone era of melancholy and loss, and ringing with otherworldly resonance and mysteries glimpsed from beyond the veil. Modern art and poetry romanticize the heart-wrenching tale of the abduction and subsequent rape of Persephone, the innocent goddess of spring, at the hands of Hades. Persephone has been doomed to eternally shuttle between her abductor in the underworld and mother on the fertile earth. There's no escape for her without disturbing the balance of the seasons. McCarthy's subtle rendering of the wraith-like goddess's sadness and resignation makes the heart clutch in grief and sympathy.
Guess 250, your custards are ready. Guess 250, custards now ready.
Ulysses and the Sirens by John William Waterhouse dramatically illustrates a fraught scene from the Greek hero Odysseus's journey home after the Trojan War, in which he attempts to pass by the Sirens, infamous for luring unwary sailors towards perilous rocks, and are doomed by singing enchanting songs. Waterhouse uses this myth to create an inspirational and compelling composition. The sirens, as birds, flock around the ship, singing with their melodic voices. The men gazing at them with awe, Ulysses himself, arms and legs, tense and tethered, faces towards the menacing mythical creatures with longing. Waterhouse's sirens were surprising to Victorian audiences, who were more used to seeing these mythic creatures portrayed as mermaid-like nymphs. No, sorry, I didn't remember, got to take that off. I didn't ever remember it being an issue previously. Kind of defeats the point of being able to stick that there. Munch here. I think this is the third one she's featured. As it happens, Edvard Munch did not title this painting a vampire. He originally called it Love and Pain. It was only later that picked up the name, an interpretation of a man locked in a vampire's embrace. The painting depicts a black-garbed man and a woman with flame-red hair. Her arms wrapped around him as she bends towards his neck for a vampiric nibble, or perhaps she is only just tenderly laying her face on his shoulders to offer solace to his anguished form. Some thought it may have been about his visits to prostitutes. Others saw it a macabre fantasy about the death of his favorite sister. The Nazis declared it morally degenerate. Munch himself remained ambiguous about the work's deeper meaning and maintained it was nothing more than a woman kissing a man on the neck. In typical Munch form, it incorporates melancholic themes of angst, love, sex, and death, and the rest, one supposes, can be left to personal interpretation. American Laurie Lee Braun is an artist who grew up in the historical town of Charleston, South Carolina, and her imagination has always been informed by the local ghost stories and folk tales of the swampy Low County. Her work today carries with it a similar spirit, with all manner of curious ghosts and odd characters in her mysterious portraits and paintings. The American Southeast is quite away from the ghostly wanderings and menacing spirits that inhabit the windy moors of Wuthering Heights. Where the spirits of Cathy and Heathcliff and their wild abandoned love lingers, the Braun spectral canvas of luminous yearning can make us believers that ghosts of the unforgiven and unforgettable do indeed walk the earth. David Seidman conjures the unsettling stories hidden deep in the walls of space that we haunt. Rooted in a universe both dark and fantastic, his work examines the fragility of the human condition while offering glimpses of the beauty and terror that shift and shimmer within the darkness of the unknown. Seidman, though well-studied in more traditional forms, uses digital painting techniques to create his dreamlike images of houses and bodies, and the bleak interiors of both gloomily silently watching, awaiting the oblivion, which sooner or later takes us all. Do ghosts wear clothing? Do fairies? Did Karl Wilhelm Diefenbach, this eccentric German symbolist, artist, and social reformer, after a severe case of typhoid fever, converted to vegetarianism and gave up cigarettes and alcohol, abandoning the Catholicism that he had been brought up in, began to follow his own brand of bohemian spirituality centered on free love, nudism, and oneness with nature. In this swirling moonlit forest scene, we are treated to a vaporous frolic of fairies, a celestial celebration of the mystic strangeness of the nocturnal natural world. Born into a family of artists, Emile Jean-Horace Vernet was predestined for art by a familial inheritance. A romantic painter, Vernet was inspired by a ballad telling of a fantastical ride of two lovers between the worlds of the living and dead, written by German author Gottfried August Berger around 1770. In the poem, it is 1763 and the end of the 7 Years' War, and Lenore is waiting for her fiancé. He appears in the night on a black horse, promising to marry her before dawn. But upon arriving at the cemetery, the horse rider is revealed to be a skeleton wearing armor. Contemporary artist Marcy Washington describes her work as illustrations for a book that's never been written. Had it been, it would tell tales of terror following a cast of character through a dark world of haunted manor ghosts, bloody handwritten letters, poisoned betrayals, and all the dark spaces between. Interested in building a fictional narrative with connections to history as well as to the present, if this imaginary novel were to exist, it would probably be a lot like Wuthering Heights, Jane Eyre, or The Turn of the Screw. Novels that function as social commentary as well as haunting epics of supernatural romanticism. That was that was about the left one. Franz Sedlec was an Austrian painter whose fantastically surreal works are considered to be in both the new objectivity and magical realism styles. Thought of one of the most outstanding Austrian artists of the interwar period, his mysterious and still fascinating works resist common classifications. Viennese painter revels in the grotesque, was how Life magazine categorized his paintings in 1937. It's hard to argue with that assessment. The creepily bizarre hybrid creatures populating the strangely lit, lonely, and utterly ominous landscapes. In an overall mood, both melancholic and threatening. No doubt exemplifying the widespread alienation and loneliness of the time. Argentinian Leonor Fini, painter of the surreal, illustrator of books, theater designer, and writer, was driven by passion and a sense of liberty, lived by unrestrained desires of staunch individuality, merging various influences in her languid brushstrokes and lavish palette, along with her interest in psychoanalysis, philosophy, mythology, and sorcery. Fini's centering of woman as a sexual creature and often a cruel dominatrix or predator led surrealism in new directions. In 1983, Leonor Fini, in collaboration with her friend, the art publisher Ariane Lansel, created a series of 8 paintings for Carmilla, Cherubin Le Fanu's 1872 Gothic novel of vampirism and transgressive desire, predating Bram Stoker's Dracula by 25 years. Carmilla is the first known vampire novel, and Fini's paintings were used as the basis for a new edition of the book's silkscreen illustrations. It's the rare, well-dressed, bloody-faced siren that causes one jaw drop to the floor and exclaim breathlessly, "I'll wear that." Ventral red carpet ghost is wearing. The gruesome muses, a looming specter, and lurking shades of Becky Munich evoke that very reaction, and more. On the surface, these sinister ethereal race and monstrous femme fatales simultaneously menace and beguile. But in a strange and playful twist, there's sly and creepy clever mischief to be found in the details, and it's clear to see that this artist takes her spooky business quite seriously, while winking at us playfully at the same time. Takayasha the Witch and the Skeleton Spectre is a woodblock print by the Japanese artist Itagawa Kuniyoshi. Was especially renowned for his depictions of historical and mythical scenes. This delightful horror story is from the story Buto Yasutaka, written in 1807 by the Edo poet Santo Kyoden. In this print, we see the princess on the left, framed in the broken palace blinds. She grips a magic scroll, reading the spell to summon Agasho Dokuro, monstrous yokai, Japanese imagination appearing as gigantic skeletons assembled from the combined bones of famine victims, or in this case, the bodies of the doomed soldiers that followed the samurai warlord Taira no Masakoto to their deaths. These gargantuan spirits were believed to haunt lonely country roads, snapping up solitary travelers to bite off their heads and slurp their blood as it sprouted. US-based artist and expert daydreamer Amy Earls paints figures floating and flickering through the other worlds, a perpetual autumn daydream. These vignettes bloom with foreboding fancies and gentle perturbations, delicate disturbances, and vague unease we can't quite identify or put a finger on. Earls notes that most of her inspirations and influences are connected to older things, antique objects, and various histories. Reveals that she is always enamored by language, archaic words in particular. Certain words or phrases can inspire whole universes, and these fascinations inform every eerie, elegant brushstroke. The Royal, whose name artfully translates to rust, is a French street artist whose creations encompass the dissolving silhouettes inspired by forgotten and abandoned urban landscapes and buildings in decline, working in dark contrasts and muted colors and attracting the moody atmospheres emerging from these spaces abandoned by man. This self-taught artist focuses on conveying feelings of melancholy, regret, and nostalgia, connecting them through history and time with his own ghosts and those who haunt these various modern-day ruins. British photographer Adam Fuss grew up in rural England, where he first began to document the natural environment through photography. Experimentation with unconventional photographic processes led to his eventual abandonment of the camera altogether. Fuss has since become known for his ethereal images created using photogram techniques of light flashes on a sensitized surface, through which he achieves the ghostly manifestations of light, shadow, and poetry. Benjamin Koenig has been enamored with drawing and painting since his earliest years, and countless beatifically and creepily illustrated children's books inspired his artistic passion. Currently a freelance illustrator in Upper Bavaria, Koenig feels that this creative compulsion is his calling, citing a strong bond to the magic of fairy tales. Old children's books miss in almost everything that sparks a very deep and certain intuitiveness within his own heart. Salvatore Rosa was an unconventional 17th century Italian master whose work seethes with darkness. And though mainly a painter of landscapes, most of which are awfully dark and weird, he has also depicted scenes of witchcraft, revealing his interest in the irrational and less conventional intellectual preoccupations of his age. In this story from the Old Testament, on the eve of battle, Saul, the king of Israel, feeling forsaken by God in a critical hour, visits a necromancer, the witch of Endor, to discover what the future holds. He directs her to call out the spirit of the prophet Samuel, who during his lifetime had been Saul's mentor and had himself anointed Saul as their first king. Cranky at being recalled from the shades, Samuel foretold the worst, that Saul would perish with his entire army in the coming battle, and Rosa's painting Saul is shown on his knees before a shrouded Samuel risen from the earth, while wraiths and monsters hover in the gloom. Anthony Frederick Augustus Sandys, usually known as Frederick Sandys, was a British painter, illustrator, and draftsman associated with the Pre-Raphaelites, who focused mainly on mythological subjects and portraits. Cassandra is one of Sandys' portraits of legendary female figures. The daughter of King Priam of Troy, Cassandra, caught the notice of Apollo, who bestowed upon her the gift of prophecy, which was apparently one of those conditional cursed sort of gifts. For when she spurned his advances, Apollo avenged himself by ordaining that her prophecies should never be believed. The myth of Cassandra has been used by contemporary philosophers, psychologists, and political scientists to explain the condition of valid truths being disregarded and disbelieved. In this fraught image, Cassandra, afflicted by visions of terrors and devastation to come, branded treasonous and mad, is depicted with her mouth in a painful silent scream. You would scream too if you were harassed by a god and gaslit by your own people. This powerful and disturbing painting by the Spaniard Francisco Goya grants us a vision of three bare-chested witches struggling with a figure as they levitate midair. Another character lies on the floor, covering his ears in terror, while a sixth figure flees, his head covered with a white cloth. With his hand, he makes a gesture intended to protect from the evil eye. At the right of the scene, a donkey, unfazed, stands out against a pitch-black sky, completely bare ground. No stars, clouds, grass, or trees are shown, and there is no horizon. Witches in Flight has been interpreted as an attack on the power of the church, organized religion, and its holy men, rather than a criticism of witchcraft itself. The English Victorian Romantic painter, draftsman, and illustrator Francis Bernard Dixie is best known for his romantic historical scenes, often embellished by imagination rather than based on a particular event or literary source, and employing sumptuous techniques and bold and unusual lighting effects. He was also a noted painter of portraits of fashionable women, which helped to bring him success in his own time, and a keen sensibility which is certainly seen to great effect in the detailed costumery of his mythic motifs. Mysticism is at the heart of Romanticism, and in this scene we observe a woman intently staring into a crystal orb which she is holding aloft in a sunbeam. Is the young woman a witch, sorceress, or is she merely meditating upon the play of light through the courts and daydreaming and wrapped in reverie? Nadezhda is a Russian-born artist carefully skillfully mined from the mysterious world of the imagination and transformed into dreamscapes. In turn, these multifaceted artworks are intimate windows into the inner world of the peculiar characters and creatures she creates. In this hazy portrait, we catch a glimpse of a young Baba Yaga, Russia's most infamous witch, an intriguing folkloric entity who is both benevolent and dangerous, and ultimately more unpredictable than evil. Baba Yaga has her own motivations which are beyond the understanding of us mortals. Contemporary American illustrator, photographer, and sculptor Bill Krasofsky moves with ease between media, and in doing so summons his uncanny inner narrative into powerful visions made manifest. Krasofsky draws inspiration from nature, feminine strength, and energies, and the remaining echoes of the Victorian era that haunt the landscape of his native New England. Krasofsky shares the otherworldly imagery with the viewer through a variety of lenses, both literal and figurative. Feral witches, their familiars frolic, mystical woodland rituals are illuminated, and deeply deeming fog-shrouded forests hold sway overall in this starkly surreal, whimsical illustrations and eerie woodland photography. American artist William Holbrook Beard is noted as having been one of the most talented painters in Buffalo during the pre-Civil War era. His older brother, James Henry Beard, was also an artist, and both worked as portrait painters. William earned a reputation for his animal paintings, and he often used satire to convey each creature's cultural meaning. A practice that dates to antiquity was especially popular in 19th century European and American art. This canvas, then teeming with wizened witches airborne, toppling and tumbling through the clouds, white-shocked hair streaming wildly in the frozen moment of the canvas, is a curious mystery, given that there is nary an animal in sight, not even a familiar. In 1925, Irish-born stained glass artist and book illustrator Harry Clark was commissioned to illustrate a special edition of Ghost Faust. Clark's unmistakable aesthetic, with its intricate line and ghoulish tone, lends the ghost masterpiece an additional dimension of haunting beauty. Clark considered the edition his best work, but confessed in a letter to Thomas Bodkin that his publisher felt the illustrations were full of stench and scheming horrors. Faust is the protagonist of a classic German legend based on the historical Johann Georg Faust. Scholarly Faust is highly successful yet dissatisfied in life, which leads him to make a pact with the devil at a crossroads, exchanging his soul for limited knowledge and worldly pleasures. Jana Heidersdorf is a fantasy and horror illustrator located in Berlin. His moody and surreal work is often inspired by the mystery and unpredictability of wild things and the natural world, as well as facets found in fairy tales and the fantastical. She notes an undeniable romantic side of her understanding and appreciation of flora and fauna that idealizes the rawness and chaos of nature, especially opposed to our need as humans to categorize and order everything. One gazes at the nocturnal being in this work and wonders if it's a timeless elemental spirit emotionally observing us or just a human being out past bedtime. What covenants are they weaving their dreams into when midnight magics? Are they communing or conjuring forth? So that did, to me, sort of end on a bit of an anticlimax there. Yeah, overall I really enjoyed this. I was hoping her writing would grow on me but I think I kind of got more and more frustrated with it, at least when I wasn't talking about the art itself. We might, I'm not sure what I've got planned next. We might just jump into the next one of these. Can't think of anything else that I might have in stock. Anytime recently thought about doing more normal game books. I think I've even got one in the boot. I just can't work out the motivation to do them. Even when I was one like Tolis, where something I picked up ages ago, and then really wanting an excuse to get into it. So I'm not sure about what games we might cover in the future. I even I've got like a stack of stuff that I had intended to cover, but just haven't been feeling it. So yeah, it probably will just be the next one of these. So you can look forward to that. Possibly Wednesday. I'm not sure about whether I'll be able to stream tomorrow or Tuesday, but that will bring us to the end today.